Today we will have a look at an upcoming hardcore shooter from Tripwire Interactive that throws you into the unforgiving madness of the Vietnam War. Like its predecessors, it is packed with hardcore action. The game in question is of course Rising Storm 2 Vietnam. Before we dive into the gameplay, let me address some things. The game is in the beta phase, so it includes several little bugs, graphical errors and glitches, but that is the nature of the beta phase of video games. Real beta phases, not the demo betas. More about that in my video, beta is the new demo. Second point, the engine and the graphics. The game runs on the Unreal Engine 3, for today's standards a bit outdated, but in the right hands it can still look very pretty. They have proven that with Killing Floor too. And on the other hand, a good game stands and falls with gameplay, not graphics. And the last thing, kind of for the integrity, I am a big fan of the whole Red Orchestra / Rising Storm franchise, so I have been looking forward to this game for a long time since it has been announced. I just wanted to say that up front, so you know that I'm a little biased because I'm a fan. A fan so much that I asked our artist to draw our CT Fox mascot as Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore, you know that I like the smell of napalm in the morning guy from Apocalypse Now. By the way, great movie, you should see that one.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning. It smells like victory.
So let's begin. Like all the other Red Orchestra and Rising Storm games before, this game is absolutely unforgiving. You'll need some tolerance for frustration, because you will die a lot. A whole lot. Oh, and have I mentioned that you will die a lot, and usually you have no idea where the shot came from? The only thing that they'll tell you is the distance the shot came from. A sniper shot from 300 meters away in the jungle? Good luck spotting him. In this game, reaction time, paying close attention to your surroundings, map knowledge, teamwork and sometimes patience will pay off. From time to time, you will have to walk for a minute without any action to get into a good ambush position. But always be careful, snipers and traps are everywhere. Sometimes it's also smarter to retreat than try to stand your ground. And if you come under fire, think fast, cause if you throw yourself on the ground or duck behind some cover, you might be able to stop the bleeding. Otherwise, you will slowly bleed to death. I think we have established it. This game is incredibly hardcore and tries the all-in realistic approach. And speaking of realism, the available classes and weapons are asymmetrical, meaning the weapons and classes of the opposing teams are not necessarily equal in efficiency and precision. For example, the Americans can choose from two main infantry weapons, the M16 and the M14. The North Vietnamese units have a wider selection, but of more primitive weaponry. The most advanced weapon in their arsenal would be the Soviet AKM, adding to that two Chinese AK-47 knockoffs, a Soviet SKS-45 and the good old Mosin Nagant bolt-action rifle. To balance out the Americans' advantage when it comes to weaponry, the Viet Cong has a wide range of traps to lay out, so when defending an objective, always place your traps. One unlucky opponent might run into them. Boom. Classes like the American Combat Engineer are completely unique since they can equip a flamethrower, a type of weapon completely unavailable to North Vietnamese forces. The flamethrower is something extremely nasty, dangerous for the enemy and sometimes even for allies. An extremely deadly weapon for clearing out strong points and buildings. Another class exclusive to the US Army and US Marines is the Grenade Launcher Guy, equipped with an M79 he can launch grenades into buildings or cover advancing troops by laying down a smoke screen, and he can do this over a long distance, way longer than throwing distance. On the opposing side, the North Vietnamese forces have a class equipped with an RPG-7, a very powerful weapon, and a skilled player can even take out helicopters with it. But be careful, the backblast can easily produce team kills. Many classes also have sidearms, shotguns and more usually pistols. One thing that surprised me, man, these pistols are deadly inaccurate. A kill over 50 meters? No problem. These were just a few examples. Going into the details of all classes would take way too long, because the number of available weapons is huge, and with some weapons you can even choose the magazines and types of ammunition. But there's one class I want to go a bit into more detail about, the Commander, but more about that later. Besides the many classes and weapons, this game features 3 vehicles, all of these a premiere for the Red Orchestra series because these are helicopters. The American forces are currently the only forces able to field any vehicles, though according to the developers that might change in the future because they are ground vehicles on the wish list. The available helicopters are 2 combat helicopters and a transport helicopter. Both types of vehicles require individual pilot classes, so a combat pilot cannot fly a transport helicopter and vice versa. The combat helicopters take up a supportive role. Equipped with rocket launchers and machine guns, you can lay down some serious suppressive fire and when your aim is good, inflict heavy casualties. And your co-pilot can take out individual enemies with his minigun and grenade launcher. But does the Viet Cong have any chances of countering helicopters? Yes, they do. As previously mentioned, and hit with an RPG is devastating. But also a well-placed shot with an AK can take out the pilot. Other means of countering helicopter attacks are utilizing machine guns, either light infantry variants or heavy machine guns in fixed emplacements. These are mighty powerful and extremely deadly. Boom! Alright, who's next? This DSHK is also pretty effective against infantry. Here our position was almost being overrun by US forces, so I made my way towards this heavy machine gun. I guess I caught them by surprise here, but I was quickly gunned down as my ammunition ran out. But back to the helicopters, especially the transport helicopter and the transport pilot. His mission is simple, pick up troops and deliver them to the combat zone, preferably right behind the enemy lines. The transport helicopter not only functions as a sort of gunship, but also as a mobile spawn point, which comes in very handy. And this is a great transition to a key element of the game, team play, because the transport pilot is the ultimate example of a team player in my opinion, unless of course he has no idea how to fly and crashes. The transport pilot makes no kills himself. He is essentially a taxi driver. But his role is essential for winning the battle because North Vietnamese commanders can set up mobile spawn points by digging tunnels. So even after the squad leader dies, you can spawn right where the action is. So delivering US troops everywhere is key to counter the North Vietnamese strategy. Once the transport pilot landed and gave his okay, your squad dismounts and you make your way towards the objective. Ideally, attacking a control point is, like in this example, an effort of several squads, because a well-coordinated strike can hardly be repelled by the enemy. Here we are on the other side. I am trying to defend against the US infantry squad that has been dropped off by a helicopter behind our front line. I set up my machine gun and immediately started suppressive fire. The death notice delay makes it hard to find out if you killed an opponent or not, so I kept on firing. But after a while the machine gun barrel gets hot and it becomes hard to see.
Hey, RPG fella, Camp North of Bravo.
At this point, one has to make a choice. Change the barrel or keep standing by, ready to fire, but with bad visibility. A tough decision, cause anytime they could get up and start attacking your position. This whole situation would of course been easier to defuse if I had fire support from my team members. The machine gunner is just not such a good loner. The sniper, on the other hand, is. But even if you are alone, laying outside of the main combat zone, trying to take out enemy reinforcements, you should always try to coordinate with your teammates and see where fire support is actually needed.
Hit shot.
And speaking of coordination, I want to talk about the Commander now. A class so very different from all other classes, because it not only involves classic shooter elements, it also incorporates strategic elements. It is the commander's task to direct the forces, call in fire supports and reinforcements. This resource management needs to be done carefully. In the right moment, a well-placed artillery strike or reduced spawn time can turn the battle in your favor. The US commander has the ability to call in napalm strikes, artillery barrages or gunship support. Furthermore, he can also call in reconnaissance planes and call in reinforcements, meaning he can completely cut the respawn time for falling comrades. The North Vietnamese commander has similar abilities. He can call in artillery support, scouts, ambush deployments, and anti-aircraft support and the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which shortens all respawn times for half a minute. A very useful tool when you need to keep up the pressure to not lose the momentum during an offensive. As you might have guessed, the commander class is best played by someone with a little bit of experience, and ideally played by someone with a headset, because if you communicate with your teammates, you can overrun a position in a minute or two. Even with unexperienced players, victory can be achieved that way. Coordination is key to victory. So far for the big 64 players of game modes. There's also a new Scrimmage Mode, in which small teams fight in a confined environment for 3 command posts. What makes this new mode so thrilling, you only have very limited respawns, and you only get additional respawns if your team captures an objective. There are these intense moments when you are the last survivor and you have to deal with 5 enemies at once. So your whole team is counting on you to capture an objective so they can respawn. And with some luck you manage to, and suddenly you got the upper hand again. And after that hard struggle, you win the match with a clean sweep across the map. It's an amazing game mode, I really like it. If I would have to choose between the big game mode and the small game mode, I really can't, it's 50-50. This new game mode is really fun. Despite the aforementioned bugs and the a little dated graphics engine, the game manages to create an immersive atmosphere. Over the course of the beta, the immersion has gotten better and better. Because besides the polishing of the game's performance on these sometimes gigantic maps, the developers are also improving the design of the level and the level of detail on the maps. In various surveys, beta participants have been asked which areas need polishing and which areas are already good. The game's sound has been a topic the surveys addressed, and in fact the sound has improved a lot. The guns, the explosions, the environmental effects, they sound more realistic. Furthermore, the announcer, which was just a text-to-speech program placeholder, has been replaced with voice actors. Another thing about the game, they got the license for some classic Vietnam-era music, like pieces from Creedence Clearwater Revival. Unfortunately, I cannot show you anything of that because of copyright reasons. I hope this first impressions video gave you some insight into Rising Storm 2 Vietnam. My first impression of the game so far, this is most likely going to be a great game. Of course, it does need some polishing, especially the visuals. Games like Killing Floor 2, also from Tripwire Interactive, that's why I picked this as an example, they don't need to look that great. Don't get me wrong here, it does look great and it should look good, but games like these don't have to look that immersive. Because Rising Storm 2 is a realistic game and tries to be as realistic as possible, you should try to have the best immersion possible. And having graphical errors and glitches and being able to see through the ground, yeah, that kind of destroys the immersion. So it definitely still needs some polishing. But as a realistic, hardcore first-person shooter with a focus on tactic and team play, I really like it. Especially on full 64-player servers, this game is an absolute blast. And this new Scrimmage Mode is also absolutely thrilling. I enjoy the game and I will probably buy it once it comes out. Unless they totally screw up something in the beta, then I won't buy it, but I doubt they will do that. I will put a link to the game's website in the description down below. There you can sign up for the closed beta. With some luck, you'll be in it too. Oh, and something I forgot to mention. Just in case you wondered what the point and leveling system is for. It is for character customization, but no unlockable weapons. Everyone has the same equipment from the very beginning. Unlockables are limited to decorative stuff. So that's it for today. Once again, I hope you found this video to be interesting, and maybe I'll meet you on the battlefield in the future. Till then, maybe check out some of our other videos, like the Cut Content of Counter-Strike series, or a recent podcast I recorded with a friend, where we discuss cut content of Counter-Strike, female player models, the development of Counter-Strike Condition Zero, and much more. See you guys next time. Till then, have a nice day, and as always, goodbye and guten Tag. The Woodstock experience. Shit! Good luck trying to hit anything with this filter.